see what I found? I downloaded this game and this is really good, and she downloaded something else, well, that's not so good, that sort of thing. Like children do. So I thought, why don't they play with this, and what would happen if I gave them a quadratic equation? And I said, okay, I'll go away for a week and then I'll come back. And can somebody tell me what that is? And it worked. They would fight with each other. So that's called a quadratic equation. It has two solutions, this, that, the other thing. Only because of what? Because I had said, oh, I'm going to come back and then let's see. And then I would stand there and I would say, fantastic. I spent months trying to understand this in school. How did you guys do it? And they'll say, this is nothing. I can do it with the cube of x as well, or something like that. Children want to show off. So I thought, well, this is nice little pedagogical thing that I can use to drive children up the ladder. I published the whole set of papers on this. Math and computer science, I could see them go up the ladder by themselves. English pronunciation, and I'm sure in your case it will be Spanish pronunciation, it improves dramatically because of the audio that they hear from the internet. They start copying accents, basically. I won't describe all of them, but I'll tell you what happened next. It was, again, a big turning point in my life. In 2006, I went to England because of a large research project which Newcastle University had just got funding for. The research project was to improve quality of schooling in India. So Newcastle called me and said, you should be doing this because you understand the country, you've been working there. So that's how I got to Newcastle. When I got to Newcastle, I gave a similar symposium with faculty, and they said, you might be becoming overconfident in your results. It's impressive that they can teach themselves computers. It's impressive that they can teach themselves a little bit of math, a little bit of science. But don't convert that into saying they can learn anything like this. It cannot be true. I agree absolutely, because as a teacher, of course there must be things that are, why do we exist if everything can be learned by itself? So I said, all right, I believe that there has to be a limit. I will design an experiment to find the limit. So I did an experiment in a little village in southern India called Kuppam. In Kuppam, it's a very remote area. There was a school and there were 12-year-olds in that school. They spoke only the local language, Tamil. Didn't know English. They had a hole-in-the-wall computer, which I had put there from my previous experiment. So they knew how to play around with computers, download games, all of that stuff they knew. In that computer, I downloaded first-year undergraduate material on biotechnology. First-year university level biotechnology, particularly about the DNA molecule and how it reproduces. So the children came running in, so what's this? Is a new game? So I said, no, it's not a game. It's not a game. I said, this is something really important and interesting. But it's all in English. Children looked, and I said, you're never going to be able to understand this. Don't even try. Now I know there are many teachers here. You know what happens to a 12-year-old if you say, you can never do this, don't even try. You just have to step out of the room and everybody will be on that. I knew that would happen, so I went away. And I came back after a couple of months. I did a pre-test. Everybody got 0. I came back after 2 months, and called the children. They came inside and it was very quiet. So I said, what happened? So they said, we haven't understood anything. So, I thought, poor things. They said, it's all in English, it's chemistry, it's big words. We can't understand any of this. So I think, okay, I found my limit. Doesn't make you feel happy, but there is a limit. So then I said, so when did you give up? And they said, but we haven't given up. We look at it every day. So I said, you don't understand a word of what's going on and you keep looking at it every day. What for? So then a little girl raised her hand, and I think what she said changed both my life and education everywhere. She said in broken Tamil and English, apart from the fact that improper replication of the DNA molecule causes genetic disease, we've understood nothing else. So, I didn't know what to say. What I realized was that children set goals for themselves, which are much higher than the goals that we set. So when a child says, I don't know, don't take him at face value. He's put some impossible goal for himself. This is what had happened in the group function. When I post-tested them, they got actually a 30% score. So it was 0 to 30% in 2 months. Very impressive, but not acceptable because, 50 is where you say that you're passed. So I said, okay, what do you have to do to raise that from 30 to 50? Because they live in an area where there's nobody who understands or knows anything about biotechnology. So how am I going to do that? At that point, the old experience with New Delhi children came to my mind. Why don't I tell them, if you find out a little bit more, I'll go away, and when I come back, if you find out a little bit more, I will be highly impressed, and I will go from country to country telling this story to everybody. And they said, you will go outside India? I said, yes, outside India, everywhere. I left them, and I took a local girl, an accountant, and I told her, use the method of the grandmother. So she said, what's that? I said, you just go there, they are not afraid of you. Look over their shoulder, and every now and then say, wow, what have you done? My goodness, when I was your age, I could have never done anything like that. I was so stupid. Just say that sort of thing. You've all got grandparents, so you know how the parents' method and the teacher's method are very different from the grandmother's method and the grandfather's method. On the one side is discipline and pedagogy. On the other side is admiration. Unnecessary admiration. But it is a pedagogical method. Oh, that's all I had there, so I said use that. And then you'll find it on the internet, this experiment. It's called the Kali Kuppam experiment. The scores went up to 50% in another month. So then I said, now what? First year undergraduate, I couldn't establish the limit. I came back to England and I started working with schools in England in a city called Gateshead. The local primary teacher said, well, what shall we do? I said, look, let's simulate the hole-in-the-wall environment. Let's take out the furniture from the room. Let's put in 2 or 3 computers. Bring in 30 children. So what will happen? They'll start clustering around the computers. There's no choice. All this is very important, okay? What we as teachers tend to do is to say, children, make groups. But if there are 4 computers and 30 children, what else can they do? So you don't have to say make groups. You just have to tell them, there are 4 computers in this room. You have to give me the answer to a very difficult question. I did this in a school yesterday, here in Buenos Aires. And I got the same response as I got everywhere in the world. Why are there only 4 computers? We've all got computers. I said, no, never mind. There are places where they don't have any computers, so we have to simulate that. Will you do it? And 10-year-olds will, they have courage. They say, yes, of course, okay, then shut down. Shut down the computers, only 4 computers. Clusters form, shouting. I'll tell you about the experiment. But anyway, in Gateshead, we found that you can ask questions which are difficult, way ahead of their time, and they will get there, using whatever method. The method is not obvious, because if you walk around inside as a teacher, as I told you, it stops. You have to leave it to them. But we worked out the method of how to do it. A few computers, so lack of reduction in resources causes collaborative learning automatically. So you don't have to force this. Allowing conversation encourages self-organizing behavior. But we stop it all. Moving around increases the qualitative nature of the output. If you allow one group to look at the results of the other group and then come back and do something more. Inside our schools, generally not allowed. So I saw these old practices breaking down inside the schools of Gateshead. We gave it a name. We called it a self-organizing, a self-organized learning environment. You know, I've been a teacher all my life, so it's very hard for me to write that. But somebody had to write it. In all these almost 20 years of experiments, I have seen this happen from country to country, from continent to continent. Because of the strange environment that we have created, our generation has created that environment, the collective knowledge of all humanity available in your pocket all the time. So groups of children using the internet can learn anything by themselves. I keep getting challenged on it every now and then, but I still don't have a teacher who has said, I gave them a question and they came back after half an hour and said, you can't do this. You can try it. I mean, unless you make it a really unfair thing, you'll never get that answer. Not from 10-year-olds or 11-year-olds. Now remember that whole process was getting improved with admiration. So I came back, when we did these experiments in England, I made a little announcement saying, if you are a retired school teacher, if you have broadband and a web camera, can you give me 1 hour of your time every week for free? And I got 200 in the first 2 weeks. And they were not all retired school teachers. They were active school teachers, they were young men and women. Everybody was curious, what are you going to do? But anyway, we gave it a name. Because remember I had called the old Kuppam experiment, we had created the name, the method of the grandmother. So we called this the Granny Cloud. And the Granny Cloud is a free resource. Because you know, if you're retired, if you're doing your own thing, you have, obviously everybody has an internet connection. I'm asking you for only 1 hour of your time every week for free. Almost anybody will say okay. And then I can Skype them. I can use Skype to send them to where good teachers will not go. And what will they do there? They won't teach. Because teaching over Skype is very boring. It's even more boring than teaching in real life. so I tell them, don't teach. Just have a conversation. Just talk to them, just say things like, I wonder why, blood is red. I wonder why leaves are green. So anything. It's a bit of an art creating those questions. And then you leave them alone. And you say, I wonder why blood is red and not any other color. I tried to figure it out. I couldn't really do it. So, I'm sure you won't be able to do it either. But try it anyway and let me know if you are able to find out anything. Something like that. And you'll get a whole lot of organic chemistry coming out of there. It's disorganized. It's not curricular. It's not structured. But it is organic chemistry. So, what should we do with it? I mean, that's the discussion we really ought to have. We also know that the presence of a friendly mediator can improve self-organized learning. So what's a self-organized learning environment? It's broadband, collaboration, and encouragement. I started to get invitations from many schools. first from England, then Europe, then South America. And what I'm very happy and very proud to tell you was that one of the very first series of those experiments were in this country, up in San Luis, Vishal Mercedes and so on. They took me all over the place. And what I would do, which the children used to love, is that I would have the official interpreter and I would tell the children, okay, let's try an experiment. You don't know English, I don't know Spanish, she is the interpreter, let's ask her to go out of the room. Okay. I hope our interpreters are interpreting this properly. Let's ask her to go out of the room, and then the children, and as soon as she goes out of the room, they start doing stuff. So I say, what? Now what? Google Translate. Okay? And we would do session after session just using Google Translate. Interpreters sitting outside on a chair. And the children just love it. I would type something would come out in Spanish, they would laugh at the top of their voices, that's all wrong, etc. We had a great time. But I could teach them undergraduate physics, I could teach them mathematics, I could teach them anything. I could teach them things that I didn't know myself. Using what? Just themselves and Google Translate. That happened in this country. Back in England, teachers were experimenting with this all across the country. And this is what it looks like.